Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the AEW Dynamite review for the 2nd of December 2020. And they said winter is here. Because they just put a cold gap between themselves in WWE completely with this program. I would say, honestly, this is the best single wrestling television program of the last 20 years. This is amazing, and some of the things they did I don't agree with, but top to bottom, it felt like wrestling was relevant again, and it felt like people who are lapsed fans could be talking tomorrow. This is the first time I think I felt that since the debut edition of Dynamite back in October of, I guess that would be 19. And before that, probably the first time I think I felt that since maybe, I don't even know, WrestleMania 20 or the final Nitro, but I mean, it's been years. I don't agree with everything that happened on this show, but there are things on this show that happened that just, honestly, karma is about to come for those who've mismanaged WWE for the last 20 years. That's all I can say, and I truly believe that. There's a special package about winners coming into the branding, focused on Moxley and Omega to open the show. The Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal is up. The final two combatants who go into a singles one-on-one match for the ring are determined here, and that match will happen next week. The two remaining wrestlers will face off for the ring next week, and that is MJF and Orange Cassidy, which is a bit of a surprise. MJF basically cuts a promo, says this isn't just his ring, it's the entire Inner Circle's ring, which I thought was kind of cool. About 20 people in there. Everyone goes into the ring, and Scorpio Sky and Shawn Spears are the only two that don't enter right away. They stare at each other. Matt Hardy eliminates Isaiah Cassidy right away. Hopefully that means that Hardy finds a heel partner and becomes relevant. John Silver and Alex Reynolds hit some offense on Serpentico, and Hangman Page leads to an elimination there. Luther gets eliminated soon thereafter, and Spears eliminates Matt Sydal, and Sydal took a nasty bump onto the ramp, almost like a DVD release onto the ramp. Sky takes advantage and gets Spears back soon thereafter, so that feud will undoubtedly continue. Spears talks things over with Tully Blanchard, who handles him the steel slug, and Spears punches Sky. Reynolds then tries to skin the cat. Hardy throws Silver into him and eliminates him. Hardy and Mark Quinn pair off. They work together. They eliminate Silver. This got a negative response from the live crowd. Silver's getting over, and I did not expect it, so color me surprised. Then Page almost gets eliminated, but the Dark Order catches him, sets him back in the ring. I assume this means at some point Page either has to fully confront the Dark Order or join them. Page hits a buckshot lariat. Hardy eliminates him. Orange Cassidy eliminates Kip Saban. Why he's even with the company, I don't understand. Saban pulls Cassidy out of the ring, and Miro leaves. Miro eliminates a bunch of people, goes nuts. He eliminates Lee Johnson. He eliminates Matt Hardy and Quinn, and eliminates Joey Janela. We are left with Miro, Jungle Boy, and MJF, Sammy Guevara, and Wardlow. Remaining at this point, Inner Circle beat down Jungle Boy for a few minutes. Miro breaks it up and faced off with Wardlow. That was an impressive visual. Not that I necessarily want to see the match, but it could be something interesting for down the road. Miro gets the better of that exchange. MJF and Guevara get involved, allowing Wardlow to flatten Miro with a lariat. This leads Miro to be tossed out. Jungle Boy and Guevara had a really cool exchange of Matrix level spots. Now, I admit I'm not a spot person, but the choreography that this took to do, if you're into athletic stuff where it's like, what the heck did I just see? Going out of your way to see this segment of spots on the apron is really amazing. MJF eliminates both Guevara and Jungle Boy, making sure only to shove Jungle Boy. MJF and Wardlow thought they'd won, but Orange Cassidy still laid out on the floor. Wardlow brings him back in. Cassidy escapes and hits the Orange Punch on both, allowing the elimination of Wardlow. Best friends come out to celebrate with Cassidy. Miro and Sabin reemerge, and they continue that attack. MJF and Cassidy will meet in singles matches next week for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Jericho with Jake Hager, Santana, and Ortiz defeats Kazarian. Kazarian gains an advantage early, hits a few strikes, follows up with a cradle for near fall. Jericho uses a thumb to the eye and laid in basic chops. Kazarian lands a slingshot leg drop onto the floor, and he avoids an attack from Hager, but Jericho hit a lung blower upon re-entry into the ring. Kazarian is back up on the floor. Santana and Ortiz attack for a while, and the official is distracted. Jericho keeps beating on Kazarian. And then they both trade strikes. Jericho hits a vertical suplex. Backslide from Kazarian for a 2 count for missing a drop kick. Jericho goes for lion salt, but Kazarian out of the way. Hits a springboard leg drop again for near fall. Kazarian sends Jericho to the top rope. And ends up hitting a flux capacitor for a near fall, and Jericho fights out and hits an unprettier, goes for code breaker. Kazarian turns it into a Walls of Jericho. Jericho doesn't tap out. MJF runs out with a towel, but Sammy Guevara pulls the towel out of his hands. Kazarian and Jericho exchange cradles until Jericho lands the Judas Effect out of nowhere for a win. Inner Circle comes out to celebrate, but Guevara shoves MJF, and Jericho grabs the microphone, tells everyone to shut up, knock it off, and that the group has 1 week to decide if they can coexist. Young Bucks are being interviewed by Alex Marvez. Again, why does he have a job in the back? About the upcoming matches with the Hybrid 2. They said TH2 can't beat them next week, but if they can, they'll get a shot at the Tag Team Championships. The Acclaimed make their Dynamite debut, arrive, and Max Caster raps about the Bucks' new book. TH2 show up, attack the Bucks before SCU chase them away. Britt Baker with Rebel defeats Layla Hirsch. Not a bad deal here. Brief video promo. Baker said she'd send Hirsch back to Russia. Match is a beautiful match overall. Baker is phenomenal. Hirsch is amazing. She could be AEW's answer to Ronda Rousey without having to pay her nearly as much. Baker wants a knuckle lock. Hirsch takes her down with an armbar. Going back to the armbar several times in the match is a big deal. Baker fights to reach the ropes. Hirsch out wrestles her, and she goes for the arm breaker again. Fights out and lands a thrust kick and a DDT. Hirsch is back after the break. She's making a comeback with forearms and German suplex. Baker rolls to the outside and talks things over with Rebel. And then Basically, Baker hits a sling blade on the floor. Back in the ring, Hirsch hits a bicycle knee, and then they go to the cross arm breaker for like the fourth time in the match. Hirsch catches a thrust kick and lands another bicycle knee. Hirsch climbs the ropes, but Rebel distracts her. This buys Baker enough time to send Hirsch into the turnbuckle and get the mandible claw followed by for the submission. Post-match, Thunder Rosa runs out and attacks Baker. They brawl until officials run out and separate them. Rebel landed a cheap shot on Rosa, so Hirsch takes her out. Rosa breaks free and attacked again. Agents, including Jerry Lynn and BJ Whitmer, come out to break everything up. I didn't even know Whitmer was here. Video package recapping the feud between Team Taz. Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin is next. Cody Rhodes with Arn Anderson and Darby Allin defeat Team Taz, Ricky Starks, and Powerhouse Hobbs with Taz. Allen's still bumping around like crazy for Hobbs, and Hobbs looks like a true star in the making monster here. Team Taz attacks before the bell. Rhodes and Allen take control pretty quickly. Back from the break, Hobbs finally tags in. Starks slaps Allen. Allen gives chase. Starks goes to the outside. Hobbs tags in and hits a delayed vertical suplex. Team Taz isolates Allen, making frequent tags, beating him up. Allen does what he does best, which is sell the heck out of everything. Lots of double teams by the heels. Allen and Starks bump heads, but Hobbs cuts off Allen in an attempt at a tag. Hobbs locks on a bear hug and shakes Allen like he's an actual, that Hobbs is an actual bear. Allen finally reaches Cody for the tag. Cody goes nuts with his basic moves. Taz jumps up on the apron. That leads Anderson to do the same. Starks manages to go after the eyes of Cody. Cody lands a drop-down right hand in the cutter before taking Hobbs out with a dive. Meanwhile, Allen had tagged himself in with a blind tag and lands a coffin drop on Starks for the pinfall win. Hobbs attacks Allen after the match, but Arn runs in to break it up. Team Taz beat down on Arn for a minute, and they've got the number advantage until Dustin Rhodes runs out and hits, and that leads to Brian Cage running out as well, and he lays Dustin out with an F5. Starks and Cage try to hold Cody up and allow Hobbs to hit him with the belt, but the lights go out. Sting, in his crow face paint, appears. WCW Sting, the basically the guy who was the vision of the other promotion 20 years ago. This is phenomenal, and I know a lot of people say, well, he's close to 60, what's that going to do? It's going to make this actually seem like a war. WWE as an entire company needs to be on notice now, because this is the equivalent of signing Ric Flair, or it would be the equivalent of signing somebody away from WWE, and fans will eventually see it that way. It is my hope, and with what else happened in this broadcast, that this finally forces WWE to pretend that they care about their fan base rather than being cocky because they have a whole bunch of bloated television contracts based on what they used to be and not what they are. Anyway, so Sting's there. He makes a couple of crow calls and runs away. Next week, it's announced when we come back that Sting is signed to a multi-year AEW contract. I'm hoping they use him as like an authority figure or something like that. Not that they really need one, but the voice of the brand would be a good thing. Next week, matches, they do a rundown. Orange Cassidy, MJF, Inner Circle Ultimatum, and Dustin Rhodes, Preston Vance, FTR versus Varsity Blondes of Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. Glad they got a name. Young Bucks Hybrid 2, Archer, and the Lucha Brothers versus Eddie Kingston, Butcher and Blade, Abaddon in action, and Sting speaks. So, I mean, kind of a lame duck show, but after this show, that makes sense. Hikaru Shida is interviewed by Alex Marvez. Can't they find someone with some charisma? About the Abaddon confrontation from last week, Sheeta said she wasn't afraid, but she heard a loud clanging noise and runs away. Earlier today, Moxley talks about tonight being the biggest match of his career. He's excited about how far AEW's come in 2 years. Moxley and Omega have been on a collision course the whole time, and it's finally going to happen. Stakes couldn't be any higher tonight. And then we go to the main event. Kenny Omega is your new AEW champion. This makes me sad. It's a step backward for the brand, but with the storyline implications of the end, I think there's a way it can be salvaged. And Don Callis is involved in the match. Impact Wrestling, Don Callis is on commentary for the match. He noted that this match, if the match were to go past the top of the hour, Dynamite would stay on the air. Moxley is making his way out. Moxley immediately goes for the rear naked choke, forcing Omega to escape to the ropes. Chain wrestling until Moxley forces a break, gets a takedown. Moxley and Omega basically do a lot of strikes and shoulder tackles. And then Omega forces Moxley into the corner, lands some chops. Moxley fires back with forearms. Basically, it's a strike battle for the first few minutes. Omega takes Moxley down with a jumping Rana. Moxley is sent to the outside with a dive. Moxley slides back in and hits a black hole slam. And there's an apron clothesline. Omega goes to the floor. The two brawl. There's a suplex. This ended up being with the barricades and continued to brawl through the commercial break. Omega surprised Moxley with a dragon screw through the ropes and follows up with a left knee over the barricade on the outside. Omega hits a crusher for a near fall before targeting the knee of Moxley for what ended up being almost the remainder of the match. Omega goes for a V-trigger in the corner, but Moxley flatlines him for it, nails a lariat. Omega applies a knee bar, couldn't quite lock it in all the way. Moxley fights out and hits two German suplexes. He goes for an exploder, but goes into a pump handle suplex for a near fall, and then hits another suplex. Back from the break, Omega hits a dive to the outside, but Moxley cuts him off and hits a paradigm shift. Moxley throws chairs into the ring, which kind of didn't make a lot of sense. And then Moxley invites Omega to hit him with the chairs. They trade strikes. Moxley gets the upper hand, and there's another V-trigger by Omega. He hits some Snapdragon suplexes, and he goes for another V-trigger. Moxley avoids that. Moxley hits a German suplex, and Omega hits a standing knee strike. Moxley nails the paradigm shift for a near fall. That's like the second or third paradigm shift of the match. Anyway, Moxley goes for a suicide dive. Omega cuts him off and hits a midair V-trigger. They're overusing finishers here, that's one thing. Omega lands a missile dropkick and another V-trigger to the back of Moxley's head, and then hits a Tiger Driver 98 for near fall. Omega lands a series of knee strikes, and then Moxley fights out of the one-winged angel, but Omega fights out of the paradigm shift and hits an Okada-style dropkick, and then Omega goes for the one-winged angels, and then gets a near fall off a alteration that is not the one-winged angel. Omega goes back to the top, but Moxley pops up before Omega could attack. Out on the floor, Moxley sends Omega into the heater, and then hits a paradigm shift. They call for medical assistance. Callis moves down to ringside to check on Omega. Moxley sends the officials away, and then Callis grabs a microphone, concerned that Omega was hurt. Moxley lays out Don Callis. The official checks on Callis. Omega nails Moxley in the head with a microphone. Moxley's busted open from a microphone shot. Don't really get that. Omega nails a series of V-triggers and lands a one-winged angel to win the championship. Omega and Callis with the championship and immediately run to the back. The backstage wrestlers are angry at Omega and Callis, and Alex Marvez caught up with them. And then Don Callis says, tune into Access TV on Impact to find out more. I assume this means either a war between promotions or a trade agreement or a little bit of both. This is good for business. WWE now has to worry about Impact, which has a second TV show, and AEW, Dynamite, and Dark. So they've got 3 shows now instead of just one show that they didn't think. And they've got the entire, if they wanted to, AEW has access to the Impact roster for a trade agreement. They have good relationships with the NWA. This is finally looking like a wrestling company is going to beat a sports entertainment company. And over the next few years, mark my words, AEW will be bigger than WWE because WWE has lost at least 3 steps about caring what the fans want. Unless WWE changes where they're going, they are going to fall hard. And karmically, I believe they deserve it. Not for the sake of the talent, but for the sake of the arrogant executives who just underestimate and undervalue public opinion and have for 20 plus years. Anyway, we will be back with the NXT review and several Mid-South shows. So keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.